Hi guys, my name is Adrian and I am the founder of Sonoran Flora. Sonoran Flora is a company that curates the beauty of the Sonoran Desert while also caretaking for the beauty of the Sonoran Desert. And when we curate those beautiful pieces such as photographed print canvases or plants that you might see me planting on the page, we bring those to your home and we make them beautiful art pieces inside of your home, make your home more aesthetically pleasing, while also using plants that are either well adapted or native to the Sonoran Desert. As part of the mission for Sonoran Flora, what I'm really seeking to do is not only sell products that are beautiful, that are aesthetically pleasing, of course I'm seeking to do that, but I'm also seeking to grow the body of knowledge surrounding native and desert adapted plants. And to help achieve that goal, I am doing research projects, and that's what these agave pups that you see are here in front of me. So these agave pups, although they look very large and full grown because they are mature pups, they are part of a research project that I started maybe a month ago. I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks now. And what I did is I took from 2 different Agave desmetiana plants and I harvested 10 of the pups. And as part of the project, what I'm doing, as the purpose of the project, what I'm doing is I'm trimming the roots in different fashions, the stems that are growing, and I'm seeing what's the most successful. Now this is a small sample size, so this is the first of a few of these runs that I'm going to do. I'd like to get up to about 100 and see over time what is the best method of trimming those roots to get best root growth, best development in the long term. So this is going to be a year-long project. Now you can see there's blue tape on here. What I've done is I've tagged each of these with a number 1 through 10 to keep track, and I have documentation on my computer, and that documentation is going to help me track how I either desheathed or didn't desheathe some of these plants. As you can see on this one, I completely cut everything off. I cut it clean. And that's going to be one of the variant types just to see how the different plants do. Again, this is not a big enough sample size. You can see this one's quite small compared to maybe this one. And so doing the different root trimming on these two, it might not be exactly the best scientific method here, but over time as the body grows, I can make charts and graphs to see and compare, if one's 20 inches, how it did with or without a sheath, with or without trimming, with or without taking the entirety of that stalk off there, that stem I mean. And over time I will gather a large amount of knowledge on just this plant particularly, and then I'm going to try it on a few different agaves, and we'll see if there's a common method that works the best, or if there's something particular to each plant, or maybe a common method across most agaves that may be on, for example, agave zebra or agave colorada that doesn't work exactly the same as the rest of the agaves. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into the video. You're going to plant these up with me. I'm going to number the buckets, and we're going to set them out in my little cactus garden out back, and I'll show you guys that. I'll give you a small tour. It's a little dark outside right now, so what might end up happening is I'll just take that video in the morning and cut it in for you guys, just so you can see exactly what's going on here. But yeah, I'm gonna start potting these up. So just to keep up with the tracking here on this project, I've got these black buckets, and I'm going to put duct tape with the numbering on the side as far as which one is which. Trying to keep really good track of everything, make sure everything stays nice and neat, clean. Trying to make sure that this is something that's fairly rigorous, although it doesn't need to be perfect. My kind of philosophy on this stuff is, you can't make it perfect when you're dealing with plants. And that just kind of goes into the philosophy that is to do with plants in general. The way we classify plants, the way we deal with the species, it's a little bit hard because we want to call, this plant is this species, and that's it. That's the end of the day. Or that's the end of the naming process. But that's not always how it works. And the reason is because you might have one plant, like Agave desmetiana, that's growing in a certain valley, and a little bit higher up the hill of that valley, you have another Agave desmetiana that's growing slightly differently. And it's the same species, but it's a different form. And at what point, does it become a different species? The categories are not neat, and a lot of times, like with Opuntias, for example, the Opuntia hybridization in the wild is so great that it's almost impossible to truly classify them. And that's just kind of the way the plant world works. There's just this incredible way that plants have of becoming one to another, to another, to another, and eventually they're unrecognizable to us. And it's really hard to put these things in narrow boxes and say this is this thing in the plant world. And so, I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but my philosophy on the research projects is you make it strict, but you don't make it too strict. You don't need to close off the environment to spores and to microbes and to all of that. You just need to have good practice, understand what the plant's like as far as water and sunlight, understand what kind of soil they like, if they're going to need any nutrients over time, which a lot of plants will. A lot of desert plants are really going to be okay if you don't give them like extra nutrients, but some of them do, and giving them extra nutrients is going to help them grow faster and root down faster. So understanding those things, and if you just take good care of them, some of the data will be a little bit skewed, but over time, over enough specimens, over enough examples, you will have proper data. So if I do 10 of these, right, I'm not going to have the proper data no matter what I do. But if I do 100, even if the data is a little bit skewed because a few of them died from some weird infection that was in one of the bags of soil, probably what's going to happen is I'll have a pretty good idea of what type of root pruning works the best for planting pups. And then I'll replicate that over and over, and if I get, 70, 80, 90% success rate, then I'll know, hey, that was successful, that was a great method. Then I'll share that data out to the community, out to you guys, and you'll be able to, in the future, see this is the method of root pruning that worked really good for Agave desmetianas, and you'll be able to use that when you root your own pups. And then again with Agave americanas, coloradas, and so on and so forth. So this mix that I'm using here is a mixture of sand, pumice, some forest materials that have been recycled, feather meal, and a couple of different kinds of barks. So it's just a regular store-bought variety of soil. It's nothing super special. It's not like a specially devised mix, but it works pretty well because it has the pumice for aeration. The barks make it nice because they'll hold a little bit of moisture, but they give the soil a nice porousness, and it's got some manure, so it's got some good nutrients in there. It's got some meal in there, some feather meal. There's some really good nutrients in the soil. You can see, I don't know if you can see from back there, but it's nice and black, but it's also porous. And it's not too clay-like. It's going to allow for the water to come right out. The roots aren't going to get too wet. They're not going to get moldy from this soil holding onto the water, which is going to be really important for these because agave don't really like to have wet feet. So it's a decent soil, I find. It's what I've been using lately. A lot of times I'll make my own soil from cocoa coir, some pebble stones. I'll put some pumice in there. If I have some pumice on hand, if I don't, then I just don't put it. Like I said, I don't do anything too specific when I do my planting. I just kind of go with what I have. If I have one soil on hand and maybe I don't like it the most, I'll still use it. It's not a big deal. We're just out here planting and having fun, and that's just kind of what I do here. I don't make anything too strict or stringent. I just have fun with my planting and mix it up. So what I'm going to do here now is just go ahead and write the numbers of the agaves on the buckets, and I'm going to write it a couple of different times on each label just to really make sure that if one fades away, the other ones are still there. I just want to make sure, like I said, that I'm keeping good track of everything, that I'm not losing this entire project to a fading number on a bucket. And I'm going, hey, what is this number? What is this plant? I can't remember. And then I've lost all my data and I've lost everything that I just worked for. So I'm just making sure that everything is well tracked, well taken care of, and well regulated, and other things that are done well. Yeah, just saying stuff at this point. Just having a little fun with it, you know? Nothing too serious, nothing too crazy. Again, like I said, just going ahead and writing every number 3 times on the bucket so that I know which is which. So now I'm grabbing my agaves here, and I'm just going to pull this blue tape off after I look at which number it is. This one's number 10, so it's going to go over here on this right side. Go ahead and just toss that tape on the ground for now. It'll clean up a little bit later. And I'm just going to go ahead and check the agave out. You know, it's got some kind of dead bottom leaves. I'll trim those up at a later time. I'm just getting them in the soil right now. They're looking a little wrinkly on the leaves because they've been out of the soil for a few weeks now. No big deal. These things bounce back really well. These were kind of not doing too hot. They were really overcrowded on the agaves that I pulled them from. So they were having a hard time as they got overcrowded in that way. And then when I harvested them, they sustained a little bit of damage as well. So, you know, these are going to have a little bit of a struggle coming back over the next year, but as they open up from the center and grow out, I'll trim those bottoms away and they should do really beautifully. Now, I've got to say, the ones with the really long stems like this, what I feel like is these ones are not going to do as well. I think what should happen, and this is my prediction for my test, is you should cut them down to just a few inches on the bottom, maybe 2 or 3 inches on the bottom, and maybe even less than that, maybe even nub them completely down. And the reason is because they grow like this so that they can get out from under the mother plant and up to the top and get to the sunlight. That's the only reason they grow like this, really. So you can see the roots are all growing on one side. That's because it grew out, you can see the curve to it, out from under the mother plant like this, and then it shot up towards the sunlight. And so that's how it was initially growing, and I'm going to put it in the bucket like this, straight up. And so I think these ones, I don't think they'll die, I don't think they'll do like horribly, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to be more efficient and better for the plant in the end to just nub this off completely. You can see there's a massive curve on this one, how it curves like that. That's again because it was growing like this, and that's how it's supposed to be in the ground. But I'm going to stick it in the bucket like that, and it's just going to be a little bit of a curvy guy in there. It'll be a little wavy. So we're going to go ahead, set that down in there, and then I'm just going to do the same things with these ones, same thing with these ones, just set them all in the bucket. You can see, once again, growing in that same fashion. This one I partially left the sheath on. I left some of the sheathing on there. Sometimes these can really trap moisture inside, and when they go inside of the soil, this can cause damage and like mold and infection. But I really let them dry out for like 3 or 4 weeks, and so it should be fine. I don't think there's going to be any moisture trapped in here that's going to cause that. But it's probably healthier in the long run to completely cut off all that sheathing, to peel it all the way down to this kind of maroon structure that's on the interior that sheathes that central stem. So we'll go ahead, set number 8 in the number 8 bucket. And finally, number 1. And number 1, I left a large amount of that sheathing on there. That's one of those ones that I left a large amount on just to see what would happen. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill these guys up with dirt. So what I'm doing is just putting the soil in here, I'm packing it down really nice and tight. not crazy tight, you know, I'm not tamping it down with a tamper, but, you know, just putting it down a little with my fist and getting it nice in there. One thing I wanted to say too is like, the reason I left these out for 3 or 4 weeks is because when you pull a plant out of the ground and rip its root system, if you put it immediately in the soil, it could get damaged. It could get infected by the soil, by the pathogens in the soil, because it has open wounds now. So what you want to do is let it sit for a while and let the wounds callus over, and then you plant it and new roots will start to grow. And also when you plant, especially desert plants like these succulent plants, cacti, stuff like that, you don't want to water it right away. You want to let it sit in the soil for a while and grow some new roots. Now, if it's a small cacti or succulent and you plant it in the middle of summer, you transplant it in summer, you're probably going to want to water it a lot earlier because it doesn't have as much water storage inside of its body to keep itself alive and maintained for as long of a period of time, especially in the summer. Here in Phoenix, it gets really hot. So you want to make sure that if it is summer and it's a small succulent, you go ahead and give it some water a little bit sooner. But typically, like these guys, this soil, I bought it from a garden store, and it's a little bit moist. It's not super wet, but it's a little bit moist, and that's because it just rained outside. So I'm just not going to water these for maybe like 2 weeks or so. Wait till the soil dries out, wait till I look at the topsoil and I see that, hey, this is pretty dry now. I'm going to fill down a little bit into the soil and see if it's dry in the bottom layers, like an inch or two deep. And then once I feel that it's adequately dried out and the roots aren't going to start to rot away if I water it again, then I'll give it a nice deep watering to really set it in and give it its structure in the pot. And after that, I won't water it again for quite some time because it's January and, you know, it's going to be kind of cold outside for the next like month and a half, maybe 2 months even, and then it'll start getting warm again. And once it starts getting warm again, I'll get them on a regular watering cycle. I don't do anything consistent like one every week in this month or every 2 weeks in this month. I just go out and I look at the soil, and if I think it needs water, I give it water. And that's really how I do things. That's how things should be done with plants because, you know, this is not the type of thing where you can just say, hey, every week this needs water to live. Sure, you can give it water every week and it'll probably live, but that's not how things happen out here in the wild. Out here in Phoenix, it might not rain for 2 or 3 months in a row. These in their natural habitat might not get water for 2 or 3 months in a row. Now they are in containers, so it's a little bit different, but they have water stored inside of them. They're succulent plants. In their leaves, they're full of water. They're thick and fleshy if you feel them. And so you don't need to give them water every week for them to survive. Actually, it's worse for them because if they get used to that type of watering and then you miss a watering all of a sudden, they're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Where's my regular watering? If you let them get a little hardier, they take a little longer to grow because they're not having all that water, but that's what their genetics are used to. They're used to having that non-frequent supply of water, and so when they get that extra water, they grow a little too fast, and then they can grow spindly and they can grow weak, and that can create some serious problems for long-term health for these plants. You know, one thing about this mix that I think I don't like too much is the amount of sand they use. I can feel it in here. It's a little bit heavy on the sand. Sand isn't something I would add to a cactus mix. It's a little too gritty for me. It's not bad. I mean, a lot of cactus soils in the wild they have a lot of sand in them. It's just, if I'm doing container plants, it's just not something I'm going to add, just by way of habit, really. But yeah, that's just one of the things that I noticed that I'm not too fond of with this soil. It's a nice soil though. I really do like it. It's very good overall. You know, when you find something that's good overall, you just deal with maybe the small things. That's kind of like life, isn't it? You find something that you really like, you enjoy, and maybe there's a few things about it that kind of frustrate you or you're not too fond of, but you deal with those things because overall you enjoy it. Look at that beauty, standing up nice and tall, number 4. I like that one a lot. Wow, these are really looking good. Enjoying how this is coming together. We've got a year of tracking to go. You know, after this planting, I have every few weeks I'm going to look back on these guys and I'm going to see how they're doing. They're all still alive right now. Week number 3 or 4 here. They are all still alive. They're doing well. They're a little wilty on some of them. Some of the lower leaves are getting a little wilty, but that's to be expected. As you know, as they start running out of water, they start dropping those lower leaves to maintain the center where the new growth comes out. But now that they're in the soil, some of those older leaves are going to unwilt. They're going to fill back up with water. So these plants will be very, very happy in the next couple of weeks here. I had one agave actually. It was a salvage plant from the Nevada desert. I don't know exactly what kind of agave it was, but it was wilted on the bottom leaves. It was very small, like maybe 5 inches, something like that. Very small. And those bottom sets of leaves were really wilting on the back, on the bottom. They start wilting on the backs of the leaves. You can see they look wrinkly. And they were very wilty, and it took, oh my goodness, like 2 weeks of being in the soil for it to start to be full again. And I was really worried it wasn't going to come back, but now it's doing wonderfully. And the leaves in the center started to unfurl just as winter time hit this year. And so this spring, I'm going to put a little nutrients in that soil, and I'm expecting a big blossom. I'm expecting it to grow a couple of inches this year. I'm hoping it'll grow a couple of inches this year. So this is the one right here, number 7, that I completely cut off the entirety of that stem. And I think, in my personal opinion, this one's going to do the best. I think it's going to grow a fantastic root structure the way agaves are supposed to. It's going to really bloom quickly, and it's going to make a great comeback. There's no material down in there to rot like on these other ones. Something I'm afraid of, and I don't know if this is for sure, but I'm afraid that they might rot, those long stems that are inside of there. Yeah, because typically those will grow like outside of the soil. They'll grow a sheathing to protect them, and then the roots will grow down in. So I'm afraid some of those long stems are going to rot. But we'll see. You know, I'm going to probably pull a couple out at the end of the year, at the end of the 1-year mark, and see if they did rot. And, well, you know, only time will tell on that one. It's a good thing that I purchased more of this soil than I had initially planned to. I was planning to get about 3 bags of it, and I had a bag at home already. And already I'm on my 4th bag, and I can tell I'm probably going to have to open up a 5th here. So I did get 5 bags from the store, which puts me at 6, which means I'll have a little bit extra, which is fine because I have a new Opuntia or a new Mammillaria to plant tomorrow, which is super awesome. It's a Mammillaria microhylia, which I've never seen before, and it's got 3 pups almost equally spaced around the canister. So it's got this cool triangular shape for the pups, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's got these amazing black spines and just looks so healthy. And you know, sometimes those garden centers in the home repair stores have just absolutely amazing plants. Most of the time I go in there, I don't buy anything, but sometimes, every once in a while, they just have absolutely stellar plants. That's actually where I got last night. I posted a YouTube short of me planting a crested Opuntia subulata, and that thing is just, it was $5. I mean, it's killer. It's so cool. I'm looking at it right now behind the camera. It's just so cool. So yeah, sometimes those garden centers just have great deals. So, you know, if you're, and I don't mean to like hate on anybody, but if you're one of those plant snobs who like, I don't go to Lowe's or Home Depot for my plants, go in there every once in a while and check it out. You know, most of the time, like I said, I leave empty-handed because it's the same old stuff. You know, they carry the same plants every time. But occasionally, they'll have a really cool plant in there, a really cool cactus, and I grab those every time I see them. Okay, looking so good. Everything's planted. Everything is noted. It's all looking exactly how it is supposed to be. I am very happy with this. I'm very impressed with the results and how everything turned out. I just want to give you guys a little close-up here. So this is how the plants are looking right now. This is them inside of their buckets here. You can see I left some room at the top. I'm going to go ahead and put some gravel in there. I didn't bury them too deep. See, I left them where those leaves would be right there. Just buried the stems. That one's a little deep because that's the one with no stem there. I'm going to go ahead and put some rocks in the top of the soil just to show you guys real quick what it looks like with the rock in there. Again, I just threw a really basic pea gravel, just really small rocks. Really tiny ones. Just a layer on top, keeps the moisture in, and it makes sure that the soil doesn't splash up as I am watering these things. And we're gonna call it a night. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you so much. Go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, share if you think anybody could benefit from this information. And I'm going to, in the morning, go ahead and drop the video of my outdoor cactus garden that I had talked about earlier for you guys. So again, from Sonoran Flora, from myself, Adrian, I appreciate you all tuning in, and have a wonderful night, and I'll see you on the next one.